Clearly you've had great conversations, which you've told me, and clearly you've given her some sort of green light. So that's fine.
I don't know.
You have, otherwise she wouldn't have picked you.
We've had two good
chats. But it's
chats.
coming from somewhere. She's not
Well,
she's not delusional. She's getting that from somewhere.
I really feel sorry for Leanne and Scott. Scott looks like he wants to cry because his plan backfired. I have a feeling that Scott wanted to make Leanne jealous, and because he had been told he's in a one-sided sort of situation, he wanted to make sure that she felt about him the same way he felt about her. And I think this is why he started entertaining Sher, not realizing that this girl wanted him and she was going to do whatever it took to win him. I do not have any empathy for Sher because on this series, this is the second time she's done this on this season. She did the same thing when she had Jack keep Amani out of bed, and then now she's doing the same thing with Leanne. It seems like there's certain people that she goes after that she feels that they don't deserve anything good and she deserves the best, because it doesn't make sense why, knowing that everybody in the village says that Scott and Leanne are the strongest couple, she felt that it was a genius idea to try and break that up. Doesn't make sense. I think she wanted to keep Jack as an option. Him being upset, karma, baby, karma. You treated Whitney badly, and karma is coming a calling. And then the Lucinda Belle situation and Sean. I'm not buying that nonsense. I really am not. Lucinda, at the end of the day, wanted to end that storyline on a narrative that was positive for her, and this is why she pulled this girl for a chat. It's not because she felt sorry, and I personally am not buying it. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. We're still trying to get to 7,000. Click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island All Stars, Season 3, Episode 19. So we have the Islanders wake up. We have the guys in the kitchen sort of making coffees. Helena's come back from the hideaway, obviously. And then Scott, while he's making coffee for Leanne, you have Shep walk by and he asks her, shall I make you a tea? And she says yes. And personally, I don't understand why he did that. I really don't understand why he did that, especially given the fact that he knew that Jack was making her a drink, or he saw Jack making her a drink. So I didn't understand it, because you then had him sort of walk, I think he was taking Leanne's drink to the changing room, where he came across Sher and said to Sher, your drink is in the fridge. It seems like, you have two drinks. And she was trying to make a statement on her part, Sher, because for her to walk into the changing room holding a drink in either hand and say, oh, I've got two drinks. One was made by Jack, one was made by Scott. She was trying to sort of make Leanne know that Scott had made her a drink. That's the impression that I get. I think she was trying to let Leanne know that there's competition in the house. And for me, I was side-eyeing her because I just thought it was unnecessary. You had Tommy sit down for a chat with Lucinda. He apologized for the words that he said, but he didn't apologize for the meaning behind them. He apologized for how maybe they might have come across, but he stood firm on his belief that, she's not feeling shown as much as she makes out, and she's waiting for somebody else to walk in and then she will jump ship. She said he wanted the best for Lucinda and Sean. Do I think so? No, I really don't, and I don't understand why he cares about it, given how Sean, his mate, treated him. So at the end of the day, if he apologized, that should have been enough, and he should have kept it stepping. You had Yemen and Whitney and Leanne having a conversation. And Leanne was saying, my couple, I'm not sure what's going on because my couple is now making drinks for other people, meaning that Scott had made a drink for Sher. And sadly for Scott, this opened the door for Sher. This opened the door. She was already trying to open the door, and the moment he just left the little crack open, she decided to use it as a signal to step in. And personally, I didn't like it. I thought it was very sort of inappropriate for Sher, the way she behaved once she got the drink. And I understand how Leanne feels, because Leanne has been with Scott for 3 weeks. He's only ever made drinks for her. So the idea that somebody else has come in and he's decided to do that didn't make sense, given the fact that he's been reassuring. He's always told of every single thing that he did. And so she felt it was slight because he put it in the fridge. And yeah, that was wrong. You then have Lucinda go and pull Belle for a chat because Belle was sitting with Whitney. Lucinda apologized. She said, I never wanted to hurt your feelings. I am with Belle. It's going in through one ear and coming out through the other. Lucinda is up after a narrative, and because she didn't get the edit that she wanted, this is why she continued to try and pull Belle aside so that they could end that situation on her terms and not on Belle's terms. So she wanted to come out as the aggrieved. She didn't want Belle to come out as the aggrieved. That's the impression that I get. They agreed to disagree. You had Belle Belle sort of tried to give her heads up to say, if Sean treated me this badly, how do you think he's going to treat you? You need to be mindful. Don't be blinded by the little nice boy acts that he puts on. Lucinda, on her part, didn't buy whatever Belle was saying because immediately after her chat with Belle, she ran to Sean and she was telling Sean and regurgitating more or less, oh, she was telling me to be careful of you. She was saying, you don't deserve me and I'm better than you. And it's like, why, Lucinda, are you doing this? I thought you apologized and said you wanted to be in good books with Belle. How can you say you want to be her friend when you're saying all that behind her back after she had looked out for you like a fellow friend? So make it make sense. How do you want to be with a friend when you're saying nasty things behind their back? I didn't like that conversation. Sean, on his part, then used it as fuel to go and sort of confront Belle because Lucinda said to him, I need you to speak to Belle. Sean went and pulled Belle for a chat, and you're saying to her, I just want you to know that I'm sorry for the fact that I hurt your feelings. That was never my intent. I was trying to do what was in my best interest. He's always tried to do what was in his best interest. We all saw how he behaved when Sammy walked in. We all saw how he behaved when Lucinda walked in. And sadly for Belle, she decided to turn a blind eye thinking that she would be safe with Sean. And Sean is not the one of the two. And for him to try and apologize, they agreed to disagree, and Belle could see through it. I think finally she can see the light and she can see that this man is not good for her. So this is why I think, has agreed to sort of put a line under it and keep it stepping. She went into the changing room and was crying, and the US girls had to try and come and console her. But she said she was fine. She just wanted, time alone. And it's like, it's really sad. It's really sad that, she's putting herself through all this for Sean. Sean, I repeat. Sean sat at the fire pit with Connor and Curtis, and he was busy saying, he's had a chat with Belle. He feels like, they're in a good space. Yes, it's hard for her to sort of get over it, and she might not forgive him. The guys were trying to say, heartbreak takes a while to sort of get over. And it's like, I don't think their connection was that deep. I really don't think it was that deep for, Belle to be behaving the way she is. I think she's doing a bit too much. I think she needs to keep it stepping, unless she's doing it to get as much airtime as she can before she's dumped if she doesn't have a partner. You then had Sher try and pull Scott for a chat. Scott, one thing he's going to do is speak his mind. At the end of the day, what he believes in is what he's going to stand by. Because for her to pull him for a chat and say to him, let's go to the secret garden because I want the shade. And it's like, there's no shade in the secret garden. Just say you want the privacy. Oh, I don't want the prying eyes. I just want us to be away from everyone. I feel like she was sent by production. I'm going to say this. I feel like she was sent by production to stir the pot, and this is why they sent her in with that sort of story of say go to the secret garden. Scott on his part refused. He sat down with her on the mini fire pit. There was shade there, so she can't say she didn't want shade. There was no prying eyes looking at her, so I don't know what she was trying to do. I personally didn't understand why she needed to speak to Scott because she thanked him for the drink and they're sort of going on about nothing really. I don't think there is anything there. I think Scott likes the fact that he's sort of making Leanne jealous and sort of winding her up because he wants to see that she really does care about him as much as he does. But I don't think there was anything there. The fact that you had Jack come and pull her for a chat, on her part, Sher wasn't happy that Jack interrupted that chat. She really wasn't happy that Jack interrupted that chat. Jack came, he sat down, and he was just sort of trying to suss out where they are as a couple. And it's like, this girl is after the theatrics. She's seen, the wrath that Lucinda has had to deal with, and she's trying to do it in a way by she pretends to be a victim if people come after her. But at the same time, she's just as malicious and calculated as Lucinda. This chat I didn't understand. Curtis sat down for a chat with Millie, and he was sort of questioning where do we stand because yesterday, I'm exploring with Kira. Kira is a bit too forward. When she kissed me, I was worried about you that you might be looking, and it's like, Curtis, how many more times does this woman need to tell you that she's not feeling you like that? You need to stop embarrassing yourself and keep it stepping. She's not into you. It's okay. You will find your person. I love that Millie had to sort of reiterate that no, we're just friends and that's it. I'm happy in my couple. Yes, we've been together for 4 days, but I'm very happy where I am and there's no chance that I will be coming back to you. Scott then pulled Leanne for a chat, And the thing with Scott is any girl that's pulling him for a chat is wasting time because whatever happens there, as soon as he gets back to Leanne, he just presses play and regurgitates every single thing that happened because Leanne was sort of questioning the idea that he made her a drink. And he was saying, oh, she tried to take me to the secret garden. And Leanne said, well, that's the reason why she tried to take you to the secret garden because had you not made her a drink, she would not have known that, you're open and you're happy with what's going on. So you can't blame her for taking you to trying to take you to the secret garden when you're busy making her drinks and telling her that you're open and you want to explore this. And it's like these two people really like one another, but because they really like one another, it's one of two things. It's either they know that if we say we really like one another, production is going to do something to break us apart, or they're both waiting for the other person to say, I really like you. That's the impression that I get. So it's either they don't want production to break them apart, or they are really waiting for the other to express interest. And sadly, because they're two very proud people, neither one wants to sort of give in. I love that Scott was unhappy because apparently this is the first time that, Leanne hasn't cuddled him in bed. And she was saying, if you're going to be exploring with other people, I'm not going to be, cuddling or kissing you. You do you, I'll do me. And then when we're ready or when we're reunited, then we'll move on from there. And it's like, oh my God, this is messy, but good for her for standing her ground and not allowing this man to sort of play in her face. You had Whitney and Millie sit down for a chat. They were talking about their connections. It was more or less Millie looking for someone to vent to because Millie was sort of asking Whitney, where do you stand with Connor? And Whitney was saying, Connor's giving mixed signals because one time he says, I don't want anything to do with you. And then next thing he's upset, he's saying, why did I kiss Yemen in front of him? And it's like, personally for me, I think Yemen is too good to be true. I think he really is too good to be true. At least with Connor, he worked hard to earn Whitney. Yemen, it seems like he came in with a playbook and this is what he's going to use and do to get what he wants. You then had Millie now say, she had a chat with Curtis and Curtis was saying to her, he's with Kira. Kira is a bit too much and he was questioning where they stand with Millie. And Whitney was surprised, I think like the rest of us, that why does he need to continue to be rejected by Millie? Does he have a fetish whereby he enjoys being rejected or what is it? It doesn't make sense. She's already told him she's not feeling him like that. That should have been enough and they should have kept it stepping. You had Sean and Scott sit down for a chat. This was more peaceful because Scott, on his part, really wants this over and done with. He just wanted Sean to know that, I wasn't targeting you. I was talking to Lucinda and I only said one thing. This is what I feel. I feel like Sean felt like a big man on campus the last time he used his tears to win votes. And so since then, he's thought that he's the big man on campus and he is the one who agitated Scott in this situation. It wasn't Scott agitating him. Scott was having a conversation with Lucinda and he jumped in and sort of carried it. And surprisingly, when everybody else was calling out Lucinda, he didn't have smoke for them. But the moment that Scott opened his mouth, because he knows they have a history and he can play on it, and he's already called Scott a bully, this is why he decided to play on it. This is why he tried to use it to sort of turn people against Scott. And I personally didn't like it. I thought it was too messy and a bit malicious on Sean's part that he wanted to sort of turn the viewers against Scott and he continued to sort of try and make a mountain out of a molehill. You have the islanders get ready for the night. Obviously, everyone is excited. Some people are asking for kisses. You have, on her part, Leanne is saying she's a bit nervous because she's worried about what's going on in a couple. Sher is very vague about it. When he's asked Scott by the guys, he said, Leanne is his number one, and yes, he's open to exploring with Sher, but Leanne will be his number one until otherwise. And so, personally, I think maybe they should have sat down, the three of them, before things went left, but then production could have been the one that was sort of separating them because they wanted the drama and the mess. You had Leanne having a conversation with Belle, and Belle was asking her, so are you going to have a chat with Scott then? And she said, no, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Immediately, a text came in for the islanders to gather around the fire pit, and you knew it was about to be messy. Anyway, they gathered around the fire pit, and then Yemen received a text message to say that there's going to be a recoupling, and the USA Islanders will get to pick first since they were the last to come in, and then the boys will pick whoever's left. And it was like, this is going to be a hot mess. This is going to be a hot mess because there's way too many people to pick. That's 6 people picking before the UK Islanders. So it's going to be messy. Anyway, first up was Kira. Kira, spoke about Curtis, and she chose Curtis. I don't think anyone was surprised by that because Curtis doesn't have any other connection. Imani, she stood up, she spoke, about this guy who's caring, who's compassionate, who's empathetic, and it's really sweet. So she and Connor make a cute couple. I think they really do. I don't know whether she's just humoring him or whether she actually likes him as a person because she was saying you're very sweet. And then the drama began. Cher spoke about her multiple connections and the fact that she's really had to do what's in her best interest. I think she did it for two reasons. One, she didn't want, the idea that somebody had rejected her or she had been told someone is off limits because the girl sent Scott back. And also, I think she thought if there was going to be a public vote, Scott is one of the main characters this season. So there was a likelihood that she was going to stay in the villa because of the drama with Scott. They wouldn't immediately dump her. So I hope that's the case for her. Zach stood up, he spoke, he said, I don't know how much time I need to speak about Millie. Millie was giddy and excited, good for her. Yemen was selling ice to Eskimos, in my opinion, because of how sweety, cutesy, and syrupy his sort of words were. I feel he's very performative. I hope he's into Whitney as much as he makes up because he said, she's a strong woman, she's independently minded. And so I hope he's genuine. Carrington chose to couple up with Helena. Well, they've been to the hideaway, so it makes sense. And then came the guys. So first up was Sean. Sean, spoke about the challenges that he's had and the fact that he's had to do what's in his best interest at somebody else's expense. And so he decided to couple up with Lucinda. Anyone surprised? Class? No. Kieran, spoke about the fact that he had missed Sammy while they were in Villa USA, and so he is happy and giddy with her. Do I think there's a genuine connection there? I don't think so. I really don't. I think they fancy one another, but I don't think they're as strong as they're making it out to be. Then lastly was Belle and Leanne. They felt some type of way, especially Leanne. Leanne was saying this is embarrassing because she didn't expect to not be picked by Scott. And when Scott was picked, the girls were not happy. You even had Whitney say, I'm not clapping. So the idea that she was standing there with Belle as the last two girls was really sad for the two of them because they knew that they were going to be in friendship couples. Anyway, Jack stood up. He said, he's been in a friendship couple with this person, so he's happy to go back and listen to the gossip. So he coupled up with Belle, which then left Leanne on her own. I felt really sorry for her. I really felt really sorry. It was very embarrassing. I agree with her. It was sort of humiliating, like it's some sort of ritual. And you could see that Scott wasn't happy. Scott wasn't happy. He looked like he wanted to cry at that point. And so it was really sweet of Tommy to stand up and say, it's unbelievable that of all the girls in the villa, Leanne is the one who's standing there because Leanne is the sweetest person. I've spoken to her several times and she's one of the sweetest people. And she's really genuine and she's really looking for love. So the idea that she's standing there doesn't make sense. And you could see Cher's face drop because everybody seems to agree with what Tommy was saying. Scott, on his part, was happy that she was saved, but at the same time, he wasn't happy that he wasn't going to be in his couple. You could see that he wasn't happy. So I love that Leanne appreciated the little speech and she said thank you. And so she sat in between Tommy and Curtis, and they were really trying to look out for her. On his part, Scott looked like someone had slapped him in the face because he wasn't happy. He really wasn't happy. He was sitting with his new partner, but he wasn't happy. So after the recoupling, you have everybody leave the fire pit, and you have Belle and Whitney sort of take Leanne to the day beds because she was really upset and shaken, and she didn't understand what had just happened, and she kept complaining that this is humiliating, this is humiliating. Scott ran after her, trying to pull her for a chat, and Leanne wouldn't even give him the time of day because he kept calling her Leanne, Leanne, Leanne. And then eventually she turned her head to make him know that she's heard him. And she just kept stepping. And it's like she's really upset. And I give her credit for that. Kieran had to take his boy and go and sit down with him and just sort of try and pacify him. To have this girl at the fire pit be crying and saying, everybody hates me. It's like, Sherlock Holmes, what do you expect? Did you expect them to clap their hands and say, well done, good on you for doing that? Because that was very insensitive of you. Because Leanne is right to say, if she knew she was going to pick Scott, she should have given me a heads up just to say, I really have a strong connection with Scott. I want to explore it, and there's a possibility I might pick him. Not to blindside me and to blindside everybody else. Because I sort of understand where Leanne is coming from when she says, I don't trust my connection. Everybody thought they were the strongest couple. So the idea that out of the blue, this girl has picked Scott doesn't make sense. I feel like it's one of two things. As I've said before, I think she wanted the security if there was a vote, and or also it was production that pushed her to do that. Jack on his part said, he wants to know why she picked Scott because it doesn't make sense to him because he thought they were secure in their couple. He didn't expect her to pick somebody else. Scott was asked by the guys and he kept saying, it's not about how I feel at the moment. It's about how Leanne feels. And I don't get why Cher would pick me tonight of all nights. And what I think Scott meant was, it's been 3 weeks. He's been in the same couple. He's very happy in his couple. Why would she think it was a genius idea to steal him when he's always told her that he and Leanne are the strongest couple in the villa? So I get where he's coming from. I think there might be misunderstanding with the viewers. Eventually, you had Whitney sort of encourage, Leanne, that you need to have a chat with Scott. Scott came and pulled Leanne for a chat, and Leanne was in her feelings. All I could hear was Olivia Pope, "If you want me, earn me," because she said, "I'm not going to be in a love triangle. I've already told you this before. I'm not going to play stupid games with you. You opened the door for her to step in. She stepped in. I'm stepping out. You do you." And you could see Scott wanted to cry because Scott, for someone who's very vocal and someone who's very opinionated, for him to just sit there and be dumbfounded tells you he really cares about Leanne. He really likes her and he doesn't know what to do with himself and is so upset because, yes, she's still in the villa, but the fact that he's been stolen and she's in a couple with somebody else now, even if it's a friendship couple, is something that he wasn't expecting. I love that Leanne walked off and just left him there, and I think he looked like he wanted to cry because later on you see him being consoled by Belle. He looked like he wanted to cry. And so the audacity of this girl to then run into the changing room knowing that Leanne is there trying to pacify herself and go there and try, "Oh, Leanne, I want to talk to you, but I'm happy. I know this is not a good time. I'm happy to talk to you later." And have Leanne try and pacify her. Leanne is a bigger person than me because I would have walked out. I would have walked out. I wouldn't have screamed like Belle, but I would have just lifted my bottom up and just stepped out and just left her in her feelings because she didn't care about me. Why should I care about her? You have Cher go and have a chat with Jack. Jack is right to say that, I don't understand. Because after she chose Scott, she then said to Jack, "Nothing changes between the two of us." And then suddenly you're pulling Jack and say, "Oh no, I just did what I thought was in my best interest." No, you could have still got to know Scott in my couple. Unless you didn't want to lead me on, or unless you know there's nothing there, let me know. Is there anything or is there nothing for you? That way I can keep it stepping. And sadly for Jack, I think he realizes that this is the end of the road for him. This is the end of the road. And then you have this montage of all the couples just in their happy space. Everybody's happy, is giddy, is excited. And it's just, happy with the recoupling. The only people that are not happy with the recoupling are those four poor souls. You have Leanne, Scott, and Jack, who are all victims of Cher because Cher's decision has rattled the three of them and has shaken them, and they don't know what to do themselves because they weren't expecting this. So to see everybody in their couples and everybody happy was really cute. It seems like there's not enough bed space, so every night you have a couple go to the hideaway. First of all, we had Millie and Zach, and then we had Helena and Carrington, and tonight it was Sammy and Kieran's turn. They were happy. Everybody got into bed. On his part, Scott wasn't happy. Yeah, he did say, "I feel fine considering," but I don't think he's fine. I really don't think he's fine, and I don't think he's that stupid given how he felt when somebody did exactly the same thing to him. So the idea that he would play on Leanne, I don't think is something that is likely. So I have a feeling they're going to get back together, but he's going to do a lot of groveling in order to win her back. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 18. Bye everyone.